Well, the doctors are going to slice that, and I'm a little bit worried. They're planning on going pretty deep into this thing, and we'll see. I'm ugly enough as it is, although I do look a little prettier with this if you don't count this shit. And that was from 3 weeks ago. Yeah, that was from 3 weeks ago. I haven't been on since then, and yeah, they took a pretty good slice out of me. Part of my arm is now part of my nose. It was one hell of a procedure. So there's a bit of a cautionary tale here. I am certainly not one to give medical or life advice to anybody, but I gotta tell you something. I first noticed that thing on my nose about 8 years ago, and I thought it was a zit. And I did what I do with zits. I picked it, and it went away, and then it came back, and I thought it was a zit. So I picked it again, and rinse and repeat for literally about 8 years. I remember it was 8 years ago because I was in Laytonville, and it's been about 8 years since I've been in Laytonville. And a woman in Laytonville said, "Hey, you better get that looked at before it ulcerates." But I'm thinking, nah, it's just it. You know what? It's nothing. It's I've had things I've picked on my whole life: mosquito bites, this and that, zits, whatever. This wasn't a zit. It was called a basal carcinoma, basal cell carcinoma. It's a form of skin cancer. So they went in, and he right away said that this is a big one. He kind of drew a map all over that part of my face, especially on the nose, and it's called a Mohs procedure. So what they do is they go in there, they take some, they put it under the microscope, and they kind of see at the edges, is it still alive inside, et cetera, et cetera. So they came back and took some more. Typical. Usually this is, a Mohs procedure is done in 2 or 3 sessions. In this case, it took 5 sessions. And then after 5 sessions of needle in the nose is not exactly tea with the queen, I gotta tell you, but it numbs it for the most part numbs it out. So they go in there, they cut. Okay, I'm numb, I don't really feel the cutting, I feel a little pressure. He goes out, he comes back. Look, 5 times they went in there. Then I'm asked the question, as if I'm qualified to give an answer to this. They took so much that there has to be either a graft or what they call a forehead flap. Forehead flap would have involved 3 separate procedures where they would take skin from my forehead and then attach a hose going from my forehead to my nose, taped over, but it probably goes right past my eye. Who knows? As it is, this bandage is in my field of vision. It's a pain in the butt. Anyway, this could have been worse. It sure as hell could have been better. So again, not to be moralistic, so what the doctor said to me is, yeah, things pop up, they pop up someplace else, no big deal. But if something keeps popping up in the same place, you've got to see a dermatologist. Otherwise, I'm lucky this didn't spread to my eye and spread to a lot deeper than it did. As it was, when they were doing some of this, they kind of went outside the numbed area, and I could feel the needle hitting pretty uncomfortably close to my eye, especially when they were stitching me up. And during the procedure, I could kind of feel the cutting kind of touching the septum. I'm like, wow, they went right through my nostril. It's really ugly. I actually have a picture, but I'm going to give a warning right now. This is early in the podcast, only 5 people watching. So the 5 of you, I don't want to subject you to anything you don't really want to see, but I'm going to show you what my nose looked like before the graft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this picture up to the camera, but I'm going to give you a warning before I hold it up so that you could close your eyes or turn away, because this is a very, very graphic photo. I'm gonna hold it up to the camera so anybody who doesn't get grossed out by these things too easily can see it. But and then I'll kind of give an all clear. So right now I'm gonna hold this up. If you're squeamish, if you don't want to see a pretty gross picture of my nose before they did the skin graft, Turn away right now. Close your eyes. Here it comes. Ready? Whoops. There I was. So one, two, three. Okay, you got a good look. It's gone now. You can look again. Okay. That was the before picture. We live in an amazing technological age. So, because I'm kind of wondering, what am I going to look like when these bandages come off? And through the magic of AI, I'm able to see what it's going to look like when the bandages come off. And here it comes. There it's going to be. So, can hardly wait. So, yeah. So, Moe's on the nose, no picnic. In the course of things, first of all, I start talking about this Mohs procedure. People are coming out of the woodwork. Apparently, this basal carcinoma thing is very, very common. People who've been exposed to the sun are especially susceptible to it. I used to go to the beach all the time in Brooklyn. I went to Brighton Beach Baths, which is now condos, which really blows my mind. But yeah, I was a member of the club. I used to go there almost every day during the summer. I was out in Brighton Beach, Manhattan Beach, Coney Island Beach, Reese Park, Rockaway Beach. You know, maybe people on the West Coast don't think of New York City as a beach area, but it sure is. Actually, in a way, almost more so than the LA area. So whatever it came from, I got it. It's here. I have another one on on my temple here. I'm not sure if you could see. There's a little. Hopefully, it's a small one. That's getting done August 4th. They found another one on the other side of my nose. Both of these were detected really early, so I really have hope these will be simple procedures without the need for grafts and all of that. So that's what that is what is up. That's why I haven't been on for a couple of weeks, and that's why I got this thing on my face. Okay, so we got a few things to cover tonight. I want to talk about the big beautiful bibbity bop. I want to talk about this Elon Musk third party. I want to talk this Mama Dama guy in New York. And I definitely want to talk about what we're all kind of wondering about this Epstein list and Trump's reaction to being asked a question about it. So I'm going to get into all those things, and let's start with just the final comment. If you've seen the movie Chinatown, after he did the first slice, I'm like, this is like what happened to Jack Nicholson in Chinatown. I said that out of sequence, but I had it on my list. I take little notes now, the things I want to cover. So anyway, the big, beautiful bibbity bop. Everybody was talking about this 998-page bill. 1,000 pages, whatever it was. It went to the House, it went to the Senate. They added this, they took out that. I personally didn't understand a word of it. I know that one thing I definitely didn't like, and I think it's what made Elon get his divorce from Donald, was that it raises the debt ceiling, which that by itself is a horrible thing. This country cannot go further into debt. I don't know what kind of 4D chess is being played there, but that is not the point. That is not the point. The actuality of the bill is not the thing that has the boomer blathering about this. The point is, look at how the voting came down. Every single Democrat voted against it, and almost every single Republican voted for it. Now, call me crazy, call me naive, call me whatever you want to call me. Call me ugly. Yeah. But call me naive, but don't we elect? It's called the House of Representatives. And hey, sorry to go literal on you, but a representative is supposed to represent the people who elected him. So I got to tell you, are you telling me that every single congressional district that has a Democrat in Congress representing them is against this bill? And are you also telling me that every single district that has a Republican representing them, except for the few who voted against, are for this bill? I don't think so. So this is a symptom of a much bigger problem. The country has become so partisan that we're not representing our district. We're representing, no, not we. They are not representing their districts. They're representing first their donors and second their party, which is pretty much the same thing. So I think that on my list of things I'd love to see happen in this country, one of them is a return to people actually being in touch with the people they represent, supposedly, and finding out what's important to them. I sure as hell did not hear from my congressperson regarding this big, beautiful ding dong. So it gets passed eventually. Some arm twisting happens. If there were holdouts, and then Elon Musk says, "Oh well, now that he basically said, if this thing passes, I'm forming a third party." So he forms this third party, this alleged third party, America's Party, a People's Party. I don't even, there's been so many infancies of third parties ever since whenever that it doesn't matter what it's called. Part of me would like to see a strong third party, but I got to tell you, we need a second party. People are so upset about Trump, and I'm going to get into why I'm upset about him right now too. But people are upset about Trump because they felt that the election of Trump was the equivalent of drinking piss. What those people don't realize, the ones who were demonstrating right after the election, and I'm not talking about what's going on this week. I'm going to get to this week, but you complain about you got to drink piss, but the only other thing on the menu was eating shit. And as bad as drinking piss is, it's not as bad as eating shit. So we need a second party because that other party, the so-called Democrats, they have not had a fair and competitive primary since 2008. I could forgive 2012 because you had an incumbent president, a very popular at the time president, who was going to walk into the nomination. So yeah, they want him reelected. I can respect that. I'll respect that. 2016 was a mess. 2020 was a bigger mess, and 2024 was an absolute disaster and an insult. And they're starting to pay the price for that too, because those investigations are going on into who knew what about the whatever he was sitting in the White House, handing out the auto pen for other people to sign his name for 4 years with an open border. That's the thing, And again, I'm going to get very, very critical about Trump in the next little while in this podcast. But I'm going to get very critical because I think he's really. I'll get into what he did the other day. But before I get there, I'm going to say I still don't regret voting for him, because if those borders didn't close, even with them closed, we have a major mess on our hands, a major mess. Now, if you totally don't believe in private property, if you totally don't believe in ownership of anything, then you're probably for open borders and a certain Woodstockian, we are the world way of looking at things. If everybody could just get along, we probably wouldn't need international borders. But we live in the reality of the 21st century. We live in the reality of the entirety of civilization for the last 5,000 years. We need borders. There's bad people, and they need to be kept out. And so I believe in borders. I bought my house, and I locked the door, and I consider this house to be my house. And if you're for open borders and you own a house, I've said this many times, don't bother locking your door at night, because if you think anybody can walk into this country and stay here, then anybody should be able to walk into your house and stay there whenever they want to also. Now, that being said, this thing with ICE, it's really, really ugly, and the way they're going about it, I can't 100% abide. There's an inventory method called LIFO, which is called last in, first out. So my feeling on it is Don't focus on the people who've been here for years. Don't focus on the people who figured out how to get a social security number and they're working jobs. Focus on the people who stormed the border in the last 4 years. LIFO, last in, first out. Well, get the criminals out first. If anybody disagrees with deporting criminals, the only reason I could see disagreeing with deporting criminals is if you feel we should jail criminals. I mean, come on. But that being said, get the ones who stormed the border out first. They're not well established. There's some well established people here who've made lives, and let's give them a path to citizenship and not deport them unless they're really really working on getting things right. There's a sane way of doing things, and maybe, just maybe, people wouldn't be laying down in front of ICE vehicles. I didn't plan on talking about ICE, but let me segue into the next thing on my list. Because, like I said, we need a second party, and hey, arguably we need a first party because the Republicans are no prize either. But again, drink piss my daughter and I used to have this game, what would you rather do? And it would always start out really easy. Like, what would you rather do? Eat spaghetti or go to school? And then my daughter would have a turn. What would you rather do? Go to the movies or go bowling? And it would be all nicey. And then it would get sketchier and sketchier. And the last thing my daughter would say at the end of the game would always be, what would you rather do? Drink pee-pee or eat poo-poo? And that was the 2024 election, in my opinion. I voted for pee-pee. Sorry, because you can't just hand us a shit sandwich and say, take a bite. No, it's not going to happen. So we need a second party. And again, arguably we might need a first party because the Republicans are a hot mess as well, but they're not nearly the mess the Democrats are, as illustrated by the primary in my home country, New York City. They had a primary, and the second party nominated this Zohani madman, whatever he's called, Mad Manny, the guy. You know what? Let me call in somebody who has a really good rant about this person that got nominated, and we will take it from there.
Zohan, Zoran, whatever your name is. You think that you're going to come in here with your smiley face? What the f*** are you always so smiley about? You 3-card Monty false promise artist? What the f*** are you? Oh, I'm Zohan or Zoran. Yo, if things are so bad in New York, if things are so bad in the world, if things are so bad in the government, why the f*** are you smiling so much, Zoran? You artist, smiley, giggly-faced you. You think you're going to become mayor of New York City on my watch? I guarantee you ain't going to win. Zoran, Zofran, whatever the you're, I guarantee. Now, we need to take you seriously. You're good at TikTok, but so am I. You're great at TikTok, but so am. And the best offense is a great defense, or the best defense is a great offense. And we're bringing the old school New York City defense, that 1986 Big Blue Wrecking Crew, Jim Burke, Harry Carson, Lawrence Taylor. We're going Patrick Ewing, Joe Klecko, Mark Gastineau, the New York Sack Exchange. On you bullshit artist, 2-bit snake oil salesman, giggly you. We're coming at you. There is no way. I'm going to bet money on it. There is no way this guy will become mayor of New York City. He needs to be taken seriously. But people need to get out there and vote against this socialist bullshit artist. You gotta vote. We gotta get ready to vote. We gotta rationalize. We gotta neutralize. And we gotta revolutionize. Maybe not in that order. The vote to take down this Madame bullshit artist.
And thank you, Mr. Rappaport. don't take Michael Rappaport's word for it, although, because Michael Rappaport does have a rather colorful way of expressing himself. Listen to the words of Zohan, whatever his name is, himself, because he will tell you what he's all about.
We are here in front of Senator Gillibrand's office, the senator of the state of New York, to demand that she call for a ceasefire. Who is ready to hear Senator Gillibrand call for a ceasefire? Are you ready for Senator Gillibrand to call for a ceasefire?
Now, mind you, this was recorded October 20th, 2023, 13 days after October 7th. So go ahead and continue.
If you are not calling for a ceasefire, you are calling for a genocide. In 13 days, 4,100 Palestinians have been killed. 1,500 Palestinian children have been killed.
That's a lie. It's a lie. It is simple. He's using Hamas's numbers. And of course, look at all the Palestinian flags in the crowd. And I'm sorry if my opposition to this offends anybody. Go ahead and send me an email if you support this whole free Palestine, which, as you know, means wiping Israel off the face of the map. Let's hear a few more words from this idiot.
Every 13 minutes, a Palestinian child is killed by the Israeli military. They have bombed residences. They have bombed UN shelters. They have bombed Greek Orthodox churches.
Oh, okay. Okay, that is really enough out of you, Zohan. Here's another perspective on it.
He has refused to denounce chants like globalize the intifada. When asked about phrases like globalize the intifada and from the river to the sea on the Bulwark podcast, Mamdani declined to condemn them, stating, I know people for whom those things mean very different things. To me, what I hear from so many is a desperate desire for equality and equal rights in standing up for Palestinian human rights. Okay, but from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free means turning the entire region from the River Jordan to the Red Sea into Palestine, which means that there basically will be no more Israel, which is basically the stated goal of the terrorist organization known as Hamas and the Islamic regime in Iran. So even if some people believe the phrase to be simply about human rights and inequality, you cannot ignore the literal meaning of the phrase and how it is openly associated with the goals of terrorist organizations. You can't go to a movie theater, shout that you want to shoot everyone in that theater, and then when you get arrested, you say, I was just hyped after watching the latest John Wick movie. He defended his position again by arguing that the word intifada has been used by the Holocaust Museum when translating the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising into Arabic, claiming it simply means struggle. But then he got immediately fact-checked by the same Holocaust Museum. They said, exploiting the museum and the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising to sanitize, globalize the Intifada is outrageous and especially offensive to survivors. Since 1987, Jews have been attacked and murdered under its banner. This is why some Jewish New Yorkers and Jewish politicians are nervous about his rise to prominence. Because after October 7th, there has been a sharp rise in anti-Semitism, both on the left and on the right. And now there's a potential New York mayor who refuses to criticize from the river to the sea chants. So that's his political policies. There is also the small case of his economic policies.
We're not even going to get into the economic policies. The guy's a socialist. I could do an entire episode on capitalism versus socialism. Ellen from Brooklyn makes a great point. Gillibrand is such an easy mark. Notice he's not outside Chuck Schumer's office. Wuss. Yeah, well, of course, Chuck Schumer's a wuss as well. But yeah, he wouldn't have dared do that in front of Chuck Schumer's office. So this is an ugly situation. So, people criticize the blathering boomer for referring to himself in the third person sometimes. And But I got to tell you, the blathering boomer, weeks, I dare say maybe a couple of months, weeks before it happened, when people were panicked about the possibility of that Harris person getting elected. RFK Jr. was, running third party, carrying 4 to 7% of the vote, and there was a blathercast that where I said, he said, the boomers said, RFK has political capital right now. 4 to 7% is an impressive piece of the country, but that capital has a shelf life that ends on November 5th. So he's got two choices. He could hang on to his 4 to 7% and go down history as a spoiler, or he could talk to Donald Trump. Donald Trump could put his ego aside and make a deal. Trump could have stuck to his guns and said, he doesn't need any help to win this thing. But I said, promise him whatever you got to promise him. Give him a prominent place in the organization. You got two choices: get elected or don't. And Bobby, you got two choices. Have a place of importance in the Trump administration, or go down in history as a spoiler. So fortunately, he chose the latter. JM says Dems want to shoot him out. They certainly do. So here's where we got to go. So, that being said, I checked it out just before I went live tonight, and the latest poll. Okay, you ready? You got your yellow legal pads out, and your calculators and your spreadsheets, your Excel. I love Excel, by the way. Excel is powerful. Right now, Mamdani is at 35%. That's not a majority, but it's a winning percentage. It's a plurality. Cuomo's at 29, Sweela's at 16, Adams is at 14. So here's what has to happen. Cuomo was a failed governor, and Cuomo was a failed mayoral primary candidate. Cuomo couldn't beat this guy in a primary. What is he doing in there? However, Cuomo has more of a percentage right now than Adams or Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa, I think he's a great man. I mean, I was still living in New York City when he came out with the Guardian Angels, and those guys were on the subways protecting people, doing the things that the cops couldn't do or wouldn't do. So I like Sliwa, but he's run for mayor several times, and he's never gotten, if I'm not mistaken, he's never gotten above 30% of the vote, if even that. So that's not happening. Adams is the incumbent mayor, and I gotta tell you, it's kind of pitiful that he's in fourth place at 14%. Those three need to sit down. What do they care about? Do they care about their own egos? Are they going to have a plaque saying, I got 16% of the vote in the New York City 2025 mayoral election? No. If they care about New York City, those three have to form a coalition, because among the three of them, they have a total of 59%. Now, I don't know that whoever they coalesce behind, and I guess a case could be made for all three of them. I really don't like Cuomo. I think you fail as governor and you're kicked out of office for reasons that are good. The only argument for him is that he's polling higher than Sliwa or Adams. Sliwa, I haven't lived in New York City in 30 years, so I haven't been there for his mayoral campaigns. And Adams at 14%. I don't know which one they got to get behind, but the three of them need to get together, sit down, go to go over to the corner of Bleecker and 6th Avenue. There's a really good pizza place. I think it's called Joe's. They good slices. It's good. It's good. Sit down, get your red pepper, get your garlic, put your fold the pizza. Make sure the oil, a good slice of pizza. When you fold it, you got to stand back a little bit so the oil doesn't drip on you. I'm getting a little emotional. I get emotional about New York City pizza, and I want to be able to go back to New York City safely and grab a slice. And if this Mad Manny is elected, I don't know that I'm ever going to go back to New York. But this is not about the blathering boomer getting pizza. This is about 8 million people, a significant number of whom are Jewish, being safe. This guy wants to defund the cops. I mean, he is on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue. And yet, because we don't have a second party, he's nominated by the so-called Dems. Adams, Cuomo, Sliwa, put aside your differences. Figure out which one of you has the best chance to win. However, maybe don't even sit down. Have your handlers sit down with each other. But if those three don't team up, this Mad Manny is going to win. And heaven help everybody who lives in New York City. It really will be the end. I don't want to be hyperbolic. I don't want to be hysterical, but I really do feel that if New York City is to have any future as a financial and cultural capital of this country, they can't have this guy as mayor. They can't. Now, the only argument I heard today, talking to somebody I had lunch with, was he's saying he hopes the guy gets elected and does this thing. But by the way, the guy wants to have the government run the grocery stores. Good luck. Imagine going to the grocery store to buy your cornflakes and having it turn into the DMV. Forget about it. Forget about it. So my friend that I had lunch with today wants to see that happen, just so it can get so bad that it has to get good again. And oh boy, so no, I don't see a saving grace. I don't see it getting that bad that it has to get good again. I have people I really care about who still live in New York City or near New York City. And again, I like to go back there. I'm planning on going back there in October before this election, and it really might be the last time I ever go back there. Okay, wow. So, Donald Trump. He really messed up yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Whatever day it was. I think it was 2 days ago now. I'm getting ready to go to work. I turn on Outnumbered, which I kind of like that show. I like that Emily Compagnie lady. She talks really fast, but she's really smart. And they're covering this cabinet meeting with the press asking questions at the cabinet meeting. And of course, the question of Epstein came up because they had Kash Patel and Dan Bongino both said that it was definitely a suicide. Let me tell you about suicide, incarcerated suicide. I have a little bit of experience regarding incarcerated suicide. I was locked up on December 4th, 1975, longest night of my life, laying there on a stone bench in a cell, waiting to get arraigned the next morning. Do you know how hard it is to fall asleep in a cold cell with a hard bench and no pillow, on the worst night of your life, facing an unknown amount of time in prison the next day? And I finally fell asleep. And what happens at about 2 or 3 in the morning? I don't know. They took my watch. I feel a billy club hitting the bottom of my foot. And there was a guard, and he wakes me up, and he said, "Give me your shoelaces." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Give me your shoelaces. We want to make sure you don't kill yourself." So, I mean, maybe that's not universal, but I certainly couldn't have hung myself with my shoelaces. I gotta believe, the guy was fully on. So I'm not buying the it was suicide thing. At worst, maybe it was, we're gonna let you kill yourself. We're not gonna actually hang you. Here's some rope to hang yourself. There's missing parts of the tape, and there's all kinds of it. So I didn't buy into that. And then, well, let's go into a little bit of history here. Let me share a clip of what Pam Blondie, Blonde Pam, Pammy Whammy, said in February about Epstein. This is just a 32-second soundbite.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
Here's the meme of the day, by the way. Whoops. Can I make that bigger? I'll make it. There we go. Mommy, how come the government's saying there's no Epstein client list? Because, dear, they are the client list. Well, there's no doubt about that. I definitely have this question. Why is Ghislaine Maxwell rotting in prison for trafficking when they're saying that there's no list of people she trafficked to? I mean, that's a pretty naive question, but it's a legitimate question, I dare say. So let's get into some other people talking about this, and in no particular order. Let's go to Australian news, because it's not just in this country they're talking about this. They are talking about this halfway around the world. And take it away, Sky News Australia.
Joining us now is James Billow, newsroom editor at Unheard. James, great to see you again. The Trump administration has vowed to be one of truth and transparency, and I would say for the most part that Donald Trump has been far more transparent than his predecessor and is delivering on many of his promises. But right now, there are a lot of questions around the Epstein files. This was an election promise by Donald Trump that we would be getting all of these files. So naturally, there's a lot of anger right now that we're being told there's nothing more to see here, especially when Attorney General Pam Bondi said that there was a client list, that there were truckloads of videos and documents. This was Pam Bondi hyping it up, the release of those files just a few months ago.
You're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah. What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for sure.
He sure did.
James, she even invited influencers to the White House and gave them binders with essentially no new information. Now we're being told there's no client list, that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide, and there's essentially nothing else to see here. No one else is getting named or charged, and it's time that we move on. And this was Pam Bondi's response to reporter questions about those files. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that.
Let me get to the Trump part of this, because this is where I have a big issue. Because this was Trump's reaction, and I'm going to pause and comment as it goes.
It left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the stabbing?
Yeah, sure. If
Pam, could I just interrupt for 1
Sure.
second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
That question was from a New York Post reporter, Donald. The New York Post was instrumental in getting you elected. The New York Post was the only ones covering the Hunter Biden laptop that you were screaming about, and that we were all screaming about legitimately. So have a little respect for the New York Post, because I know they're Rupert Murdoch owned and all this and all that, but come on, the guy asked a legitimate question. This country elected you. This country elected you because I'm not MAGA. I mean, yeah, your MAGA base voted for you, but there was a coalition a coalition of the aforementioned RFK supporters who came over when Maha joined up with MAGA. The Aloha crowd, yeah, maybe we're 1% of the electorate, but the idea that Tulsi Gabbard endorsed you and looked like she was going to be part of the administration, which she is, and I'm wearing my Tulsi shirt. Yes, I mean, I really have sympathy for the position Tulsi's in right now, because if this is what it appears to be, and there's a few ways this could go. If this is what it appears to be, this stonewalling, this how dare you ask a question, this is Warren Report Part 2. This is don't believe your lying eyes. Why the hell is release Ghislaine Maxwell if there's no nothings, and maybe there's not a physical client list, but she's in jail for trafficking. Who was she trafficking to? Who was on those planes? It doesn't matter if there's a formal list or not. This story can't die. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You who won't let go of the 2020 election. And I'm not sure you're wrong about that, but you won't let go of it, and this is the equivalent of that. People freak out. People freak out when you even hint that the 2020 election might not have been legitimate. So what are you doing, Donald? What the hell are you doing? Let's continue.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video.
I forget about the minute missing. The Australians covered that. Again, word salad. If we wanted word salad in the White House, we would have elected the hyena, the whatever her name was, Harris. So I'm sorry, Pammy Whammy. I think Pammy Whammy's got to go. And as far as Tulsi goes, this is not her department, but Tulsi Gabbard resigned as the vice chair of the DNC because she's all about truth, and she gave up a position of power for her principles. This is that on steroids. She's the DNI. She's got a position that very few ever see, and oh boy, I don't want her not quitting to be taken as an endorsement of this nonsense that is being shoved down our throats. And if she quits, maybe she could do more on the inside than on the outside. So I have zero opinion on what Tulsi should or shouldn't do right now. I just have a lot of sympathy for the difficulty of her position. I'm going to turn the comments back on my screen right now. And lots of JMs here. Cuomo needs to back Adams. Well, I don't know. Again, Cuomo, Adams, Sliwa, whichever one has the best chance of beating this guy is the one we need. There's no list. It's a flight log, which has a list of people. Again, it's you're right. It's not what you say. It's how you say it. Playing with words. Gutfeld had a interesting take last night when I watched him. So I do watch Gutfeld. It's I can't help it. I love Tyrus. I love Kat Timpf. But Gutfeld said that Trump's response was so bad that he purposely worded it as badly as he possibly could, just to show that this is not what he really feels. Who knows? But in terms of splintering, the Trump support. They should do a poll on Trump's approval rating before and after that cabinet meeting. I would bet a lot of money that it's going down double digits. and of course, some people close to me are happy that I'm being critical of Trump, but I feel I'm being critical in a fair way with good reason. And by the way, while I'm being critical of Trump, I've been out of the game because of this shit for a few weeks now. He goes in and he bombs the Iranian nuclear sites. Israel's in there. They're kicking the crap out of Iran. The son of the Shah is making speeches all over the place about how he's ready to come back, that there's a communications network in Iran, among the military. People are ready to do this. They're ready to do that. And then Trump is leaving for a NATO meeting in Europe. I know this is ancient history. It's probably 2 weeks old already, but I haven't been blathering. He had a plane to catch. So what does he do? He bombs the hell out of the nuclear sites. Israel goes in and they're like finishing the job. And then Trump says, ceasefire. Nobody's agreed to the ceasefire. But Trump, he made it again, if the election was today, I would still vote for him over Harris. Don't get me wrong. But people who think he's always right are just as bad as people who think he's always wrong. And he's neither. And actually, in actuality, nobody's always right, which is why I campaigned for nobody for president in 1984, because nobody's always right. And, well, I'm not going to get into all the nobody slogans. Even the blathering boomer isn't always right, but I'm sure as hell not always wrong. So same thing here. Trump is far, far from a perfect president, as evidenced by the ceasefire nonsense. And again, thank you for bombing the nuclear sites. Do we know that he finished the job? I don't think that anybody knows yet, but we'll see what happens there. And as much as I'm against regime change wars, I feel there's two exceptions to that. Hamas has got to go. The job's not done in Gaza. I don't want a ceasefire in Gaza. 80% of Gaza is under Israeli control right now. Let's finish the job. Get Hamas out of there. No peace deal, no ceasefire should exist that leaves Hamas in power, or we're going to have more October 7th. We're going to have this, this Mad Manny running for mayor, globalize the Intifada. That means international October 7th. It makes me crazy, and I'm late to the game. I was critical of Israel for many, many years. October 7th was a game changer, was a wake up call for me. So, maybe I'm late to the game, but it's just there's right and wrong, and this seems a pretty clear cut case of right and wrong. Israel has a right to exist in peace. Israel's defending itself. Israel defending itself against multiple bullies, and holy cow. Look what they do. The pagers with Hezbollah, the coordinated Michael Corleone level attacks in Iran, taking out all these key figures. You don't want to fuck with Israel, first of all. And the Abraham Accord, the October 7th happened because the Abraham Accord, the timing of it, the Abraham Accords could bring real peace and stability to the region. So I am unashamedly, unabashedly, and unequivocally and unambiguously. There's all the big words I can come up with, all the 4-syllable words, unambiguously, 6-syllable words that I can come up with regarding my support for Israel's right to exist in peace and prosper. Look what they've done with this piece of desert. They've turned it into a thriving community, a thriving nation. They should be a shining example. A shining example. Ellen from Brooklyn says it would be grand if everyone except Israel keeps their hand off in this moment. Yes. Let them finish the job. Let them finish the job. Some outside people are trying to get the ceasefire now, and that's exactly what's happening. And I don't abide. The dude does not abide. Israel's been fighting this alone, and let them finish this alone. And let's see what happens after that. The job's almost done. Iran has been defanged. It's possible the son of the Shah is going to come back. That's a whole other story that I'll cover in a future episode. Hezbollah is weakened. Assad's gone. So that proxy's gone. The Houthis, they're like a fly on the screen. One swat and they'll be gone, but hasn't happened yet. But I'm they're just extremely annoying, although they're killing people, which really kind of sucks. But the job's almost done. Let them finish the job. Let them finish the job. There is no genocide. None. None. Zohamed Mami. No, there is not a genocide. I'm sick of people using that word. I really am. Okay. I gotta. They told me to keep this thing dry, and I'm working myself up into a sweat with this Israel thing. I can't sweat. I go back to the doctor tomorrow. So, getting back to where I started. So they go in there. They take a big slice out of my arm. They put it onto my nose. They give me these shots, these lidocaine shots to numb it all out, and they start stitching. And I just want this to be done. Literally, this is 10 hours. I get there at 9 in the morning, and now it's like almost 7 o'clock at night. I just want to be done with this thing. So I chose the graft. I might have already said this. The graft was going to be one procedure. The forehead flap, 3 procedures. It was July 3rd, which meant the next day was July 4th. So they couldn't even do the forehead flap that night because the bleeding happened. I'd have to go back, and it was 4th of July weekend coming up. The only difference between the two is cosmetic. And I showed the picture at the beginning of the podcast, but I'll probably look like when this is all done. And how was I supposed to decide right on the spot? Do I go forehead flap or skin graft? So they said the only difference, cosmetic, it won't affect functionality. I still might need a cartilage transplant. He's not sure how much structural damage has been done by the procedure. I'll know a lot more tomorrow at my appointment. So they go in there, they take the skin from here, they put it here, they numb the nose, they start sewing. I start feeling the needle giving the stitches because he's stitching me up in spots that the numbing isn't getting to. But 5 cutting sessions and a graft later, I want to be done. I want to go home. It's Thursday night. It's already 7 o'clock, so I'm an hour late to Blather. So Blather is not going to happen. I just want to go home. And I'm sure he wants to go home. So I chose the graft. I'm feeling the stitches, but I don't want to slow him down. If I would have said ouch, he would have put another needle in my nose to give me more of the numbing stuff. I'm just going to lay here. While he's doing the arm, I'm talking to him. We're talking about music. We're talking about relationships, all this and all that. As soon as he takes the arm piece and starts sewing it to my nose, I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop talking. He's like, why? I'm working on your nose, not on your mouth. But I don't want to move any part of my face. I don't want him missing a millimeter. So I just wanted it to be done. So I dealt with the pain of getting stitches. So first they stitched up the wound. Then they sewed a bandage to the wound. And then they sewed a bandage to the bandage. It's like the Singer Corporation could have been kept in business. The Singer sewing people, how much thread this guy must have used. So, and of course, I got all these stitches on the arm. It goes all the way. It's covered with a thing. It's all purple under that bandage. So, I just want it to be done. And anyway, and I don't mean to whine. The only reason I'm kind of getting graphic about just how bad this whole thing was again, this was completely avoidable. The blathering boomer screwed up here. I had what I thought was a zit and a very pickable zit. And I've been a picker since I'm 6 years old. And that wasn't a pick, that was an itch. Oh man, this thing itches like a mother also. It's another big problem. And it kept coming back, and I kept picking it off again. So again, I implore the 6 people watching now and the few dozen who'll watch the edited version of this later. If you get a sore, pick it, don't pick it, whatever. If it doesn't go away, or if you pick it and it comes back in the exact same spot, see a dermatologist. So a year ago, I finally agreed to see a dermatologist under a lot of pressure from Stephanie and my daughter, Michaela. I finally agreed to see her. So I start calling, and state of the art with dermatology. Apparently, dermatologists are the biggest doctors in the world these days. Maybe because everybody's getting these Barcel cell carcinomas. I don't know. I couldn't get through. I get the recording. I press 1 for this, press 3 for that. I'll leave a message. Call me back. We'll call you back within 24 hours. 24 hours later, nothing. I wait a week. I don't get a call. I call again. Rinse and repeat for like 3 weeks. And then finally, I just gave up. I'm like, screw this. It's only a zit. My humoring of my girlfriend and my daughter can only go so far. I tried. Well, I shared this with my daughter, and being the amazingly wonderful daughter that she is, she was a pit bull about this. She starts making the phone calls. She hits the same brick wall I hit. But unlike her father, she called another dermatologist in the same. Providence is like the big corporation that has several different operations around the Northern California area. So she calls another Providence dermatology office. It didn't even occur to me to do that. She gets in, she makes an appointment 3 months out. So by the time this is all done, it's about many, many months have gone by. The dermatologist does a biopsy on the spot. I talked about that in a previous Blather cast. Finds that it's a basal carcinoma, refers me to the surgeon, takes a while to get an appointment with the surgeon for the consultation, and then it takes another while to schedule the surgery. So probably a year had gone by from the first phone call to the actual Mohs procedure, M-O-Z-E, Mohs procedure. And the 5, 6, 7 years before that. So don't wait. Don't wait. Get to a dermatologist. Even if they don't answer the phone, find a dermatologist. Get yourself, especially if you've been out in the sun, especially if you're older and you were out in the sun a lot when you were a teenager. These things, it's kind of like anti-Semitism. It lies in wait and then pops out at the most inconvenient time. And that's I say that shingles, skin cancer, and anti-Semitism have that in common. They live below the surface. You don't always see it. You don't know, but it's there. It's there just waiting. Just waiting. All right. Well, I hope to be back next week. I go to the doctor tomorrow. I'm going to know a lot more about what my life's going to be like for the next month. August 4th, I'm getting this one taken care of. Hopefully not a big deal. Sometime after this heals, they're going to go after this one. And then I'm supposedly clear of it all, but I'm getting back to, now every time I have a sore, I got one here now. I'll turn my head. I don't know if you can see anything there. I got one there. Now I'm the opposite. Like now every time I have something that feels pickable, I'm afraid it might be another one of these things because I don't want to get out of hand like this thing. This got out of hand, and I was dangerously close. This spread dangerously close to my eye, and when I could feel the needle with the stitches at my eye. Sorry, I'll probably edit this shit out for the final version. But the 6 people watching, the people who watch live, deserve to hear the unedited blather from the boomer who gets criticized for referring to himself in the third person. I better quit while I'm ahead. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next Thursday. Stay cool. Stay on top of things. Don't let go. Don't be silent. We need to keep this Epstein story alive. We need to fight anti-Semitism where it pops up. Don't be silent about that. We have to play our parts. And God, in my lifetime, we've had the Kennedy assassinations, so many things that the Gulf of Tonkin resolution lied into the war in Iraq. We've been told not to believe our lying eyes so many times. This Epstein thing, there were children. I have a daughter. I don't know how many granddaughters I have now. I think I have 5. I do have 5 granddaughters. I lose count. I have 5 granddaughters. These were children. These were young ladies that were that were taken advantage of in the most heinous ways. For their sake, we can't let this go. We can't let this go. We can't let this go for the sake of the women who were victimized by Epstein, not just by Epstein, by the clients of Epstein, the clients, the people that Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked to. So I don't care what Trump says. I am not a Trump, right. Trump's always right. I've never thought Trump was always right. He was wrong about ceasefire, and he's really wrong about the Epstein shit. This is not going to go away. If he's playing 4D chess with these things, God bless him. If he turns out to be right, fine. But this feels just really, really yucky on so many levels. Okay, I promised that I was going to stop. I've been at this for an hour and 6 minutes. The boomer has blathered. Be kind. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Appreciate every single one of you.